Hey YouTube, we're back. It's been a while, but we are gonna today install an interactive display, and something that the KRX is in desperate need of. I had the Turbo S, and it had a beautiful display, navigation. Actually, the Turbo S is reminiscent of the ES Kawasaki, in which that it has adjustable shocks on the fly, of course, with the Kawi. 1000 KRX, unless you get the ES, you don't have that. You have to manually adjust your shocks. Is what it is. The interactive display will still show you things like voltage, belt temp, engine temp, and of course the navigation, which is something I desperately missed when I got rid of my Turbo S. And the review camera also something that I missed. So with the interactive display, I'll be able to capture those. So let's pull these things out of the box here. You have to get the mount kit. It's going to run you about $300. In the mount kit, you're going to get a nestle of wires, mounting harnesses, whatnot, and you're going to get the new dash. And the new dash looks just like the old dash, except for you've got 4 holes in the back there in which you're going to screw your interactive display into. For $300, I guess they didn't want to give you the glove box door or the cubby door, so you will have to take the existing cubby door off and put it onto your new mount. So yeah, $300 for a lightweight piece of plastic. And like I said, the wiring harnesses. Seems like a deal to me. And then we're going to come over, and in a separate box you'll get the actual interactive display. So this is what you get. And inside this box, let's get it down here where we can see. It's packaged pretty nicely. It was packaged in a larger box with a ton of bubble wrap, and you got some nice foam inserts, which is going to keep this guy in place, not getting damaged. But there's nothing in this box except for the interactive display itself. I'll set that there. Excuse the camera work as usual. Okay, so again, camera, wiring harness, wiring harnesses, center mount plate, insulation kit, whatever you want to call it, and the interactive display. So again, does you no good to just buy the interactive display. You have to buy the center console as well, because that will also have all the hardware necessary for you to hook it up. It's supposed to have the screws and whatnot so that we can screw the interactive display into the center console, and that's something we'll do before we get it into the vehicle. Coming over to the vehicle itself, the center console has got to be taken off, and that's something I'm sure everybody's seen the video on those before. There's a lot of them out there. How to take that off. It's pretty simple as far as the center console. It's not that difficult. You will have to save your cubby lid because they don't give you that. Now the cubby lid I already unsnapped. It's pretty difficult to get off. If it's cold outside, plastic's hard. The tip I have for everybody to get that off instead of just tugging on it and feel like you're going to break something is to get your removal tool, screwdriver, whatever. I find the removal tool is the best, and you've got that angle to it. I would just stick the tool behind the hinge itself and then pry up, and it pops right off. So let's try that method. If you do scratch up your center console, which I might have had a little scratch here, very minute, but you're chucking this piece anyway. So you've got push pins, and again, 2 here, 2 here. You got 2 on the bottom, and then you got 2 Phillips screws that I removed there. Then you can just pull the whole thing right off. Pretty simple. you'll disconnect the two clips. It's kind of funny, each clip's a little different. One clip you got to press on the top to release the bottom portion, the other one just the reverse. So the green clip you have to press on the top here, which releases this, and then that'll pull right off. And then this one, press on the top and it'll release. And you can pull it right off. So now you got your center console off. I had a ram mount on there, as you can see. You will have to take off your switches and replace those into the new. So we'll put that one down. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the interactive display inside of the center console. That's pretty self-explanatory, and I'll probably come back after I get that screwed in. Again, it's just 4 screws into this guy, and they want you to start with this screw for alignment, they say, but it's got a couple of bolts, and you have basically like a spacer that'll go into the slot here first. But again, they want you to start with this lower corner here first, and I guess that's supposed to help with the alignment. So let me get that in there and I'll be right back. All right, the interactive display has been screwed in from the back. 4 screws, washers on the outside. Those little sleeves go in first, and it does give it a little bit of integrity there. Fit is pretty good. Decent sized screen. So I just removed the switches from the old dash, and like most switches, it's just you just got to squeeze in on the top and the bottom of the switch and finagle it out, and then I'm going to put my low back in the same position the low went into before, and it's just a matter of lining it up, and this is pretty simple. Now, I will say there's one thing that does bug me a little bit about this dash, is that, as you can see, it came with some scratches on it, and I mean, it is what it is. It's black plastic. What are you going to do? So again, the 4-wheel low selector, to get it out, you just press on the top and the bottom of the thing and finagle it out, and it goes back in the same way. So we'll get those just pushed in there. It's pretty simple. Again, I'm just doing this with one hand so you can see that it's real easy to do, and you'll feel it clip once it's into place. Flip it around. So now you've got your clips, and you do have obviously available slots for accessories. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken, it hasn't been the first, nor will be the last. Yes, there is. So they do give you some plugs for the new one. At first I thought, Jesus guys, see, you're going to give me 5 empty slots if I don't have an accessory. I'm shit out of luck. But they do give you these plugs for it. And you know, it's kind of nice, because really when you do get new accessories, all you have to do is just pop these little guys out, and you know, they're just going to slide in there. Maybe not as easy as I'd like, but let's see here. See if there's anything. Oh, it's at the sides. The sides that actually clip in, not the top and bottom. So those will clip in. And again, maybe not as easy as I'd like them to clip in, but they will clip in. And then you can just pop them out when it comes time. And to be quite honest, you don't want them to go in too easy, because then they fall off probably when you're riding. There we go. So that's what you're going to end up with. You're going to end up with plugs that can be removed, as opposed to the old dash, which you have to take a razor knife to cut out, which wouldn't be that bad. It's still pretty simple to do, but it is kind of cool that when you do get your new accessories, then all you have to do is just push on the two little side clips, one on this side and one on the other, and just pop it right on out. So I'll get those slapped in there, and we'll get on to the next step. Okay, they're all snapped in. I can tell you it's a lot easier with two hands, but anyway. So we've got everything put into the center console now until I get added accessories, because the only thing I've done to the KRX from the stock is just add some hokey mirrors. I did put in a nice Wet Sounds sound bar, and then I got the spare tire carrier. Oh, and the back tailgate. I got that from Super ATV. So that does complete the look on the outside. This one actually came with all the off-road protection gear. So I had the Nerf bars, I had the full back bumper, and this thing came with the full front bumper. And just mount the camera. I'm going to probably have to take it off when it comes time, because the camera goes up underneath here where that Kawasaki is. And of course I've got the bumper on there, so that'll have to come off in due time. So now that we've got the dash off, the next step it says to do is we've got to take the glove box off. So I've already taken the door to the glove box off, taken the grab handle off. Grab handle comes off by just pulling down here, and it'll slide right out. And for this one, you need to take off push pin here, 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 a couple on the outside fender. I think there's one hidden down on the door. Yeah, there we go, one down the door. And then a couple of screws at the very bottom of the glove box. One here and one there. Then the glove box could come out. One thing I don't think I mentioned, but we are going to have to put in the GPS puck as well. So we got to make, we got to drill 2 holes in the dash. We got to drill one close to the roll bar over here, and that is going to fit the antenna. And then the GPS, I think, comes somewhere around here, if I'm not mistaken. So we have to drill a hole for that GPS too. Okay guys, let me get this dash piece removed and we'll go to the next step. Before I got this in there and went any further, I did want to point out one difference that you've got between the old center console and the new. And that is, we have got a USB plus an auxiliary on the new one, where of course on the old one you didn't. Now you did have the USB, or no, actually no, you've got the lighter connection on the old. And that is probably, I'm going to say, not going to be usable for my unit because I didn't buy the audio system to go with it, but they have an audio module that goes with this, which you can pick up, I think, for another scant $800. But with the Wet Sounds, I didn't choose to go with that. But the Wet Sounds does have an auxiliary lead, and I might tap it into the auxiliary on the cubby there. But just wanted to point that out. That's really about the only difference between the two units. Okay, we'll come back in 1 sec. Let me get that glove box removed. Started taking off the dash. I wanted to point out one other additional item, and that is the rubber grommet in your cubby on the top. The new one didn't come with it. So you need to take it out from the old one and make sure you do that. I would say do that before you throw your screen in. Just an afterthought, anything I catch along the way here, I want to make sure I point out. But yes, they $2.95 for a piece of plastic doesn't warrant a new grommet, rubber grommet for your cubby to stay shut. So just thought I'd point that out to you guys. One additional item I want to point out on the inside here. there is one additional screw that we have to take off, and that is on the inside of your glove box. So not only do you have the Phillips on the left and the right lower portion of the glove box, but you also have this screw there. The other attachment point, we already took off that screw when we took off the center console, because we've got to take off both those screws here, this one and this one. That's on the lower portion of your center console. But again, I didn't point out this one here, and that's what frees everything up. So it's going to take a little finagling now to get this piece out. You're going to have to lift up on this a little bit as it tucks up underneath there. And then the last thing we'll have to do is unplug the cigarette lighter from the back once we get this taken off. One more item. That is your grab bar release. Your glove box is not going to come out until you remove that little cotter pin inside there. And that's going to be fun to get to. So that needs to be removed as well before you can get this glove box portion of the dash off. Don't forget that. I was trying to get this thing out and it wasn't coming out, and then the light bulb went on in my head and realized that needs to be removed as well. So again, right below your grab handle, you've got about a 1/2 inch gap there, and needle nose pliers. Pull that cotter pin out and your handle pull will come out. Okay, here's a look at that piece taken out. So that's what you see between the dash, is this just portion of that cotter pin, and give you an idea of how that's attached. What I use to get it out is just a pick tool, and just put it through the center here and just pulled it out, and it came out pretty easy. Shouldn't be too bad to get back in, but just wanted to give you an idea what this piece looks like when it's out. Again, that's the grab handle pull, and that needs to be removed. And one more additional item. We've got the push pin right below your colored piece on the outside by the door. This push pin right here needs to be removed. So like all push pins, pull out the center and then get something to get behind it and just pry it out a little bit, and that'll come right out. The other piece that needed to come out in order for the glove box to come out. Then once you get that out, behind it, there's your cigarette lighter, and it just got 2 connections. 2 female spades that just pull off pretty easy off the back of the cigarette lighter. And once that's done, then the whole unit comes right out. And there you have it. The glove box is out. Which, once it's out, here's what you're looking at. A nice gutted front of the vehicle, the dash I should say. And it gives you plenty of access now. Plenty of access. So here's your push pin locations. Again, I had 2 here. I did see one down below here, push pin location. One I didn't realize was the one on the outside of the door. Down here, you got another push pin location. And then of course, screw and the cross member here, and then one at the lower dash. So with all that out, you just got tons of room to work. Might be a good time to just do a little wipe down, because things do get dusty up underneath there. And don't forget, because I'm going to do that now, take your seat off. That's pretty simple to do. Lift the bottom cushion off, and you got 4 nuts down below this rail here. 1, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. Scoot your seat all the way back, get the front out, and slide it forward and get the 2 rear out. Disconnect your battery. They tell you to take the battery out. I'm I'm not certain I'm going to do that. I might be able to route around it without taking it out. I'll find out, and I'll keep you posted. Okay, with the seat out and the battery disconnected, and again, your seat's pretty simple. It's a total of 4 bolts. You've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, pull your seat forward to get to the rears, and then you take your front and it comes right out. Disconnect the battery. The next step is to take these push pins off. You got about 4 push pins here. Phillips screwdriver there that needs to be removed. You don't have to take the whole thing off. We're just removing it so that we can pull this section out and be able to run our harness through here and down to the battery. They wanted me to take the battery out on the instructions. Again, I'm going to try to avoid that. It's not that big of a deal. That's just 2 more bolts, but I just don't see the reason for it yet. If I come across a reason for it, then I'll let you know. Also, these 2 push pins might have to be removed. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to, unless that is not connected. I'm not sure. I'll find out in a second, but that's the next thing to do. Okay, update. Yes, those 2 push pins will have to be removed for you to get this out, but plus I failed to mention or realize that the 2 screws and the cup holders will need to come out, because this whole center console needs to come out, because even when you pull this out, you still aren't going to have the ease of access of getting your wiring harness down to the battery. So they want you to take the center console out, and for a good reason. So let's get that out. That's push pins on this side, that screw, same thing on passenger side, and then that whole piece should be able to be removed. Again, you've got your push pins. I will say, because these are recessed here and here, those ones are a little bit of a bugger to get out. Usually push pins are super easy to get out. I've done tons of them, but these ones on the other side were a little challenge to get out. You might say a swear word or 2, and then you've got and that should be it. I think just those, and then that should loosen up that center console enough to get out. We will give you an update. Push pins out. This side was a lot easier than the other side was, for whatever reason. Anyhow, center console comes right out, fits over the stick shift, and this piece does tuck in underneath here, and this piece here is tucked in behind there on this spot and this spot here. So you'll weasel that out. Once you weasel that out, it comes right out. No big deal. And you can see the main wiring harness down there, and hence the reason why the cup holders had to come out. These are the 2 screws for the cup holders. And you can see that wiring loom with all the wires leads up to the bus bar and various other connections for the vehicle. The one thing that I believe we're going to be connecting into, which I thought I'd have to struggle to find, and it's sitting right here, which is kind of nice, and I believe that's the cable that we plug into to give us belt temps, engine temps, and all that kind of good stuff into the unit. So we will go on to the next step, and I will keep you guys updated on what to do next. Be right back. One step here that we need to do next is on the center console piece. You're going to want to connect the USB to the USB. The instructions say to cut off the cap on the USB coming out of the head unit, and then we're going to tap into that USB that leads up underneath the cubby, the one that had the auxiliary. Then you have your 2 RCAs. They'll connect into these 2 RCAs. I'm imagining I'm going to have to cut the caps off these as well, because what they supplied us with is they supplied us with some heat shrink. So we've got all this heat shrink here, and we've got it here. So they want heat shrink put over these items. So that'll be our next step. Again, pretty simple. Red to red, and then black to the white. And then we're going to have a USB connect into the USB, and we're going to get that all heat shrinked up. I'll be right back. Okay, we've got those two, the RCA's heat shrinked, and we've got the USB heat shrink together from the top plug in the cubby. Let's see if we can get the view of that. This top cubby here, that's where the RCA and the USB comes out of. Connects into the head unit. Pretty simple. So that's done. And the next thing they ask us to do is now we're going to start, we are going to start running some cables, and I will get to that in a second. Before we can run our cables, wiring harness to the battery, they want a 20mm hole drilled out of this piece of plastic. This is running parallel to the ground, essentially, and Kawasaki did do something pretty cool, and they gave you two templates to go off of. Cool thing about it is the drill bit that came with the rear view camera, which I would highly suggest you get for this unit if you're going to spend upward near $1,700 for a display. Might as well have a rear view camera. It comes with that 20mm bit, and that will be used to drill a hole out here, and I believe down the road they want us to also have a hole drilled here, so I might just knock them both out with that drill bit in preparation for added wires or whatnot. So I'm going to get that done next. Okay, one of your wiring harnesses is just going to have a power and ground with a fuse, and power and ground on the other side with a grommet on it. That's the wiring harness that we're going to fit through the hole that we just drilled through the bottom of the center console panel here. It's so we're going to come through this side right here, and we are going to just zip tie it along the side of the main harness that leads to the battery. And I don't think I have to take the battery out, so that's a huge plus. I'm just going to run that cable now, again getting my grommet to fit in the hole and leaving myself enough slack so I can connect to the bus bar, the red to the red and the black to the black. Okay, so I'll do that and I'll be right back. So I've got it to where there's just a little coming out the top through the grommet. Plenty enough room to connect to our bus bar here. And it ran down through there to the center console, zip tie along this main wiring loom. And then you'll just pull this piece back far enough to where you can get your wire up underneath here. And I would suggest routing it behind that L there, that L metal with the screw hole. I'm on top of it now. I'm going to push it over. See if I can do this. Show you what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to come behind that piece there, which you can see. And this will fit back over. It'll come out right on top of your gas tank here. You see it running through here. And you can fit underneath your cross member bar. Here it sits here. And then it's split conveniently so your power can come around and meet up to your battery. So what we're going to do is going to slide this guy through here. And it'll come out the other side, and you can connect it right to the nut here. I've already got my sound bar connect there. There should be enough room for this as well. That'll go here. The ground, we're going to disconnect the ground to the battery, which connects right to the chassis of the vehicle. And we're going to go ahead and undo that nut and put the ground behind that. So the ground is, I'm setting it behind the original ground. And you can just screw that back in. Once you're done, then you can just take your wires and zip tie them neatly on the other side of the battery. Obviously we're not hooking anything up yet, we're just going to screw the ground in. And then we'll go to the next battle, which is going to be hooking up the bus bar to the two cords running up through the grommet of the center console. And then we'll get on to our drilling the hole for the GPS puck. And then we have to drill a couple of small holes. I think it's a 6 and an 8 millimeter for the antenna. I'll show you where those are located. Actually, what you'll want to do for that is download the instructions from the website, because they do have a template that you can use, and that template would be really handy for knowing exactly where to drill those holes up for the antenna. So we've got our ground hooked up now, and like I said, I'm going to tidy that up with some zip ties. I'm going to go ahead and connect the positive onto the nut with the battery cable, and then we'll hook the bus bar up. Once your connections are made to your bus bar, don't tighten your nuts down. Just get them on there for now, because we still got some more things to add to that bus bar, especially if you have the rear view camera. So I've just got them in place. As you can see, the grommets there, everything's ran over to the battery and connected to the ground and the positive cable. Just wait to hook that up until everything's complete. Next is going to be your GPS puck. The puck has a connection on the bottom and some double-face tape here. They've got some adhesive promoter that goes down around your dash. There's a specific measurement they want you to come on. I went ahead and just stood above the vehicle and took my puck and basically laid it to where I knew it was going to fit properly and had proper spacing over here and not exceeding this point, and just took a wax pencil and marked around that fitting. And I think I've got a pretty good location for it right there. It's clear on this side, it's clear on that side, and so now we just need to drill that hole out. They say an 1-inch diameter hole, so we're going to get to that, and we'll go to the next step. We've got the hole drilled. I don't have an 1-inch hole saw, so what I ended up doing was just using the rear view camera hole bit that they gave you, and then you can just use a utility knife and just get yourself, this is thin plastic, real easy to cut, and you can just get yourself trimmed out just enough to fit this piece in. 1-inch wide hole is actually going to have a lot of slop around here. I'm going to make it a little tighter, so it just about fits now with that bit that I've got. All I need to do is cut the little section for that neck, and so that's what I'll do next. Cut has been made, puck is in place. Next, we're going to surround that with some blue tape so we don't get that adhesive promoter anywhere but underneath the puck itself. A tip when you're using a knife when you're doing this, make sure you plunge cut, which means just stick the tip in and then rock your blade. Stick the tip in and then rock your blade. It'll cut very easily. Don't try to just cut it, because you're going to really screw yourself up. So again, anytime you cut plastic, you just want to use the tip of the blade, and you push straight down in until you got a good bite, and then you can just rock the blade and continue doing that until you get around your surface. My piece fits in there nice and snug, no wiggle whatsoever, which is what I was kind of aiming for. If you just drilled an 1-inch hole, so there's going to be some slop there. Right now there's no slop, it's tight. You can see I can move my dash around, and there's no slop in it whatsoever. Okay, so we'll get this surrounded with blue tape. Okay, we did the blue tape surrounding the puck. Then you can remove the puck and you'll see exactly where the adhesive promoter should go. Use some denatured alcohol, wipe off any excess oil. If you use any dash cleaner, anything like that, you're going to want to make sure all that oil is off before you use the adhesive promoter. They gave you the adhesive promoter in the insulation kit with the mount, the center console mount. It'll come in a package like this. And so, again, this is what we're going to use to wipe around that edge prior to peeling that sticker off on the navigation puck and putting that in. So again, use either acetone or denatured alcohol. You don't want to use mineral spirits. That's going to leave an oily residue, and then your puck have a better chance of coming off. So my adhesive promoter was completely bone dry, which is nice. So again, acetone, denatured alcohol, a good rubbing alcohol will suffice to clean that surface off, because what Cowie gave you is in, when I got it out of the package, it was completely dry, so that's not going to do no good. And then you'll just peel the sticker off of the back of your puck, and you'll place it in position. I'm venturing to guess this is pretty reminiscent of like 3M's automotive tape that they use to put on emblems and whatnot. So it's pretty damn strong. Just make sure that you don't touch a bunch of that surface before you put it in, because dust will obviously reduce your bond. So get that peeled off carefully as you can, and then you're just going to place it in position. And again, the way I did this, I didn't cut that inch hole out, and I think that serves a pretty good purpose, because you're not going to have to worry about looseness there. It's going to fit in really tight. Added thing too, just make sure that arrow on the puck, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, there's an arrow. Make sure that's pointing toward the front of the vehicle. And that should be done before you mark it. But you see how tight my piece is. Before I even get it pushed all the way down, you see it's moving the dash. And that's kind of what I wanted. Like I said, you could just cut that inch out, and then you're going to want to press it down and hold it there with some pressure for a little bit. The warmer the weather, the better it is. And again, this is going to take two hands because the dash is so flimsy, I have to hold it. We'll get that secure. Okay, puck is on and secure. And as you can see, it's on there. So no worries about that. Good press, like I said, on this thing, and you should have nothing to worry about with that. So now we're going to put the template in, because that's going to get drilled. I believe the antenna is coming in here somewhere, where I have to drill a couple of holes, and then the antenna runs parallel up the roll bar here. So we'll get this 6 and this 8mm hole drilled here, and be back in a minute. Okay, so we are going to hook the antenna up now. You can see the reason why they want you to drill a 6 and an 8mm hole on the antenna itself. When you download the instructions, you're going to get a sheet of paper, and on that sheet of paper you'll have a template that you can cut out, lay into place. I would just use a hole punch or the tip of a razor knife or whatever, plug it right in the center of those two holes, and then we're just going to drill a 6 and an 8mm. Basically, a 6mm is a little above 1/8 of an inch. 8mm is just shy of 1/4, and that'll get your stud and the little pin, plastic pin right here for support, so it's not swiveling around, if you will. That's going to put it at a pitch, so when it's installed, as you can see, it's going to just run parallel with the roll bar, which will be cool, because it's not going to impede the windshield. By the way, if you have a windshield, take it off before you start this, because it's just going to be in your way and you won't be able to get your puck in or your antenna. So that's going to be the next thing. We're just going to go ahead and plunge a couple of center holes there, and then just drill out a couple of small holes. Okay, the antenna is drilled and into place. You can see it runs almost parallel, not quite. I could have tilted it out a little bit further, but I still got substantial room for it. And it looks like the windshield will sit here and just have a little pressure on it. It is what it is. Maybe when I cinch it down, it'll be completely flat with the roll bar, so it's not hitting the windshield. Anyhow, let's get to the next step. And you'll need the grounding strip, about a 3-foot long metal cable. That's your grounding strip. And you can see where we've got it coming through the inner dash. Then the next one you'll need is the cable that has your antenna connection. It goes in the back of the head unit. And then we have the part that connects to the back of the antenna itself. So teeth are going to bite through the hole here. That's going to go over that stud, and then they've given you one nut, and that's what will screw on the back side of it. So we're going to get to that right now. Again, put your grounding strap in, and then your nut will slip in through here and attach. The teeth will grab a hold of the grounding strap. Okay guys, the grounding strap again up against the dash, firewall, whatever you want to call it, and then your antenna cable. Make sure your grounding strip is pointing down toward this cross member here, because it's going to run across the cross member, zip tie it across here, and it's going to connect to where the ground is right here for the bus bar. So there's a nut right here, and again your cable will just run zip tied right along there. There's just enough cord there to have it come through up here, have it zip tie to the roll bar. They give you plenty of zip ties, and then zip tie it all the way across here. Tighten that nut. Then we're going to put the cap over the top, and they also want you to secure the cap on with a zip tie as well so it doesn't fall off. I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, it's connected. Rubber boot over it. Zip tie it right here. I went ahead and sliced a small little sliver here and at the bottom so my zip tie could fit through it. It gets it nice and tight. I guess you don't have to, you could do it here, but when I cinched it here, it tended to lift it off a little bit, which I didn't like. So again, aim your grounding strip towards your passenger side roll bar, zip tie it. I came down, zip tied it again, and then on the cross member bar, I got a couple of zip ties, which leaves us, as you can see, just enough room for this guy to fold over and connect to the ground. So we'll connect that. Also, the antenna wire itself, I went ahead and zip tied it in a couple different locations here, and one right about the center of the cab. The antenna wire is just hanging loose, waiting for the center console to be plugged in. Also, they tell you to go ahead and plug in the GPS beforehand, but you've got room to plug it. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want that center console in my way as I'm trying to do all this other stuff. Because again, I still got to hook up the lighter. We've still got some connections down here to make. Obviously, these guys need to put in the original locker switch and the low. And yeah, so the next is going to be getting the harness, and we are going to be routing the harness, the thermistor, and it's going to be going through the front of the dash, and it's going to be coming out down through the roll bar and down to where the grill attaches. Let's see if I can find that location. So what it's calling for next is this thermistor wire, which is right here. This is the end of it. And what we're going to do is we are going to shrink wrap the clip, which is right here. You'll see you'll have a clip. It'll have a little hook on it, which is going to hook onto the front of the bottom portion where the grill attaches. And this gets shrink wrapped right between the two wires. So as you see, you got two wires there. They want the wires to be shrink wrapped. So you have two small portions of shrink wrap like this, and you'll put one on each end to get that shrink wrapped onto this wire. I would suggest running the wire first, and that's the whole nest here, which you've got the portion that hooks to the diagnostic cable from the Kawi, that plug that I showed you earlier, which I'll show you again when I hook it up. You've also got your 3 connections for the bus bar. I believe this one goes to my rear view camera or my camera harness. I'll find out shortly. And then you got the main, they call this the black plug harness, and this is the blue plug harness. The blue plug harness is indeed for all your cameras. So you got 2 for the rear and 2 for the front. And then there's another one there. I'm not sure what that's for. Let's see, front cam, rear. Oh, you've actually got a sub and an RCA, looks like. Or no, rear cam, excuse me. So the isolated one here is you got one for a sub. So that's not going to be used. That would be if you added the Kawasaki audio package to this as well. But anyhow, let me get this harness in there, and I'll start routing that. And once I get it routed, I'll show you the path of travel. But they tell you to come through the front of the dash, which right below your radiator, you'll see a gap there. They tell you to follow the existing wires, and I'm looking here, I'm seeing a hose here. So it's probably going to come across here to driver's side, come down the roll bar and dive down into the grill. So again, we'll get to that in a second here, and then I'll show you all the details of that. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, we've ran the cable, this is that thermistor, through the front here. And again, that's part of the black wire harness that has the 2 white connections and the orange connection on it, with the orange, black, and red connection for the bus bar. And that is ran through the center of the grill, or actually center above the, right below the roll bar, let's say. Here it is right here. So it comes through the roll bar. And I'm going to show you here where we ran it. Come around to the front of the vehicle. So it's, if you look at the radiator cap here, and you see the 3 holes here, it's coming through this side over here, runs through here, and as you can see, I came over, attached it to the roll bar in a couple different locations. Instructions say basically to zip tie it down the roll bar. So from the passenger side, it comes down from up here and stays zip tied to the roll bar. Up underneath here, which I've still got a few zip ties to put on it. Right here, as you'll see, it's loose here. I don't want that. I'm going to zip tie that up. That comes from down below here. The lighting is pretty poor, but you can probably see it right next to the sway bar there, where I haven't zip tied it yet, just so I can show you guys where I ran this. So it's in front of the sway bar. I had to disassemble my front bumper because I couldn't get the grill off of it. And then I came down here, and you'll see the clip. They give you 2 small pieces of heat shrink, and that was done on both sides. There's white tape on the wire, which kind of shows you where the placement is. And then you'll see the clip here. me see if I can get a good view of that clip. You'll see the clip there. And that's going to be orientated like this. And we're going to slide it, not the top portion of the plastic where it says Kawasaki. There's a bottom portion here. And that's where it's going to clip, and it's going to stay inside of the Kawasaki. It's going to be a bear to get up underneath there and get that clipped. You'll just have to pull it and finagle it. But that's where this clip is going to end up going. Orientated just like that to the front of the vehicle. And you'll slide underneath that plastic and it'll rest again inside the plastic Kawasaki. In fact, that's where the front camera gets mounted. If you get a front camera, it's going to get mounted there. But this clip's going to be toward the back, and it's going to be resting on top, so it shouldn't get in the way of the camera if I do decide to get that. So I'm going to weasel that in there, and then we'll get inside the cab and start hooking some wires up. Okay, we're going to basically wrap the video up. I'll show you what it looks like installed. We just showed you some basic starting techniques of getting this in. I didn't go through everything because a lot of it's pretty self-explanatory. I will say that on the bus bar, the directions say to use the middle stud for your red. Left-hand side goes with the orange. That is incorrect, or it was for me. I switched things back and forth over and over again. Couldn't get the screen to come on. Thought I had a defective model. Come to find out, I put all the orange and all the red connections for both the black and blue harness on the left-hand side, which was the positive side, and the screen worked and everything worked. So I got the cameras mounted. Pretty simple to do. They give you a bit, and of course, I'm probably not going to have enough light there to show you, but the rear view camera is again, very simple, 20 millimeter bit that they give you, drill into the plastic, and your camera gets just pushed in there. And then the wire, well, it's pretty simple as well. You're going to just run the wire up and over the roll bar and in through the back seat. Sorry for the lighting. I think we've got really poor lighting here. But anyhow, through the back, you have a set of wires that are going through the firewall, and then you just run it up through the center console. The front camera, same gig. If you have this bumper, of course, you'll have to take it off to get your camera, or rather your grill off. But the camera is right underneath the Kawasaki, the plastic portion there, and you can see the camera. And it actually does a pretty good job. I thought the bars were going to affect the visibility on the tires, but it actually, you see it just a corner of the front tires so that you can place them on large rocks or whatever when you're rock crawling. And so let's just start it up now. Again, everything on the wiring is pretty simple. The one thing I will say is do not use their instructions, or at least it didn't work for me, with the red in the center and the orange on the left post, which is what the directions showed, and that did not work. So when you start it up, you get your little Kawasaki screen come on, and I'm going to go ahead and shut. Let me see, I'm going to shut the engine off, just run off accessories so that we can not have to hear the engine running. So we can go across some of the features that it does have. If you do have the front and rear camera, you'll hit the camera icon here. And there's the front camera. It's not coming out great on the video, but you can barely see the front tire here. And you can see the tire here. So even if you've got the front bumper, you can still navigate yourself over some boulders and large rocks or what have you. Keep yourself out of deep ruts. Give you a little bit of visibility. The other cool thing was the front camera will operate when you're driving, and same with the rear camera. And you also have a split screen that will show you front and rear cameras simultaneously. And you can do that while you're driving. Other features it's got, of course, you've got your vehicle, which will show your pitch and roll, and that operates as it should. It'll let you know if you're in low or high gear. It'll let you know if you're in two-wheel, four-wheel drive, what gear you're in, the miles per hour. Some of the basic gauges up top, same things that you have on your center console, but just reiterated here. You've got a speaker icon, volume adjustment. If you bought the audio kit with it, then this would apply. I don't have that. Might get that down the road, but for right now, I don't feel it necessary. I've got the wet sounds. The navigation, very cool. The navigation pinch to zoom or zoom out. You also got the plus and minus. You can add waypoints and whatnot to this, and trail tracking. Your compass, which will orientate the map to north or where you're heading. So that's the navigation, and again, it's pretty detailed, and I'm not sure how much we're going to pick up off this screen, but anyhow, that's that. Then you've got, of course, the music mode, which you have the auxiliary and the FM AM. Again, I don't have that. You also have an equalizer, which is cool if you've got audio. That would be a nice feature. Then, of course, you've got settings, and the settings will give you, you've got the settings, and that'll let you adjust your brightness, dark mode or light mode, for day or night driving, 24-hour format, daylight savings time, your language, radio tuner region. You've got a Bluetooth. I haven't added anything yet. The GPS, it'll let you know the waypoint manager. The home, you can edit. You can, your track manager, which will show you the current trail that you've been on. It'll record that if you want. Satellite status. And then you've got your vehicle report, system info, diagnostics. It'll let you know if there's any faults, service info. Let you know if you need oil changes or service, annual service, any kind of notifications on that. So, lastly, you've got the instrument cluster, which will show you your belt temperature. It'll show you your radiator temperature and your battery voltage, miles per hour, RPM, how many miles you're taking on your trip. This down here is, I'm showing the navigation right now, but if you hit the three dots, you get a choice of showing various things. You can show the music, you can show a navigation screen, you can show your camera view, and then you can hit the flip button so you can see front or reverse camera here, and then the pitch and roll you can have. So you can customize the gauge screen. So essentially that's it, guys. Again, the one takeaway that I will say is make sure that you definitely connect all your orange and red wires to the left-hand post on the bus bar, and your system will operate. If you follow Kawasaki's instructions, it will not work, or it didn't for me. So hope some of these tips helped you out, and sorry for the poor camera work. Just wanted to get something up on the internet because nobody so far has anything to do with putting this guy in. The front and rear camera is pretty basic. Running your wires along the roll bar, zip tying them up. Use your head. Don't have it near the radiator and whatnot, or exhaust. You just keep it away from hot areas and shrink wrap your connections, and you should be good to go. It's pretty simple to route that. So hope it helps somebody. Take care. Hey YouTube, we're back. It's been a while, but we are